What's up guys, I'm Josh Mosiman from Motocross Action magazine, and we have an exciting video for you today as we are riding a custom built, homemade electric dirt bike. It's been raining in Southern California. We got snow-capped mountains behind us, and Dain Sires, he drove 22 hours from Cedar Falls, Iowa to deliver this bike to us today for us to have some fun on. Electric motorcycles are unique. I haven't ridden too many. I've ridden the Alta a couple times. I rode the Cake motorcycle a few times. I haven't got to ride the Stark Varg yet. Electric bikes, they're very controversial in the motocross and supercross world. I personally love 2-strokes. I love 4-strokes. I see where electric bikes can be a lot of fun from my limited experience riding them. Today, we're riding this custom built bike. It's been over 2 years in the making. We've been trying to line this up. So Dain, give us a little rundown of reason why you would spend the time, money to come out here and let us ride your bike.
Well, I thought this would be a good platform to just get some of the information out there on electric bikes. I feel like everybody is very polarized one direction or the other if they hate them, and nobody actually has real conversations about how fun these things actually are. I built this bike again just because I thought it would be fun to have one. I have never spent any time riding an Alta. I haven't ridden any other electric bike. The only thing that I had to compare this to was my Yamaha 450F, and I wanted the bike to act just like that. For the most part, I think it does. Thought it would be fun, and I thought you guys would like it, and I thought the readers would think it was cool. There's definitely a lot of electric builds that are out there that are, you know, homemade bikes. I haven't really seen an in-depth review of any of them. We'll see what we end up with today, and should be fun.
All right, so Dain here, he's not anti 2-stroke or 4-stroke, or are you?
Oh God, no. I've got ice tires on my Yamaha 252 stroke, a couple of 450Fs. I mean, I just like motorcycles, man. What I've found is every, different combustion technology has better applications, some than the other, and it's all a different experience. And that's really what I think it's about, is having an experience that's enjoyable.
You're a mechanical engineer at John Deere. Explain a little bit about your background for what you do for work, aside from this.
Yeah, the work story is a little interesting. I did recently join up with the electrification efforts of John Deere. We've got some really cool stuff coming out. So my official title is I'm a senior mechanical engineer with the battery team. Last
thing I would say before we start riding this bike is I'm excited to see what it's like on the track. You said earlier something about 2-strokes and 4-strokes going away. You projected that it's going to be a long ways out.
Oh my God, I don't think we'll see the internal combustion engine go in our lifetimes. We've got easily 50 years left on highway. Off highway, we'll never have to worry about anybody coming to take our 2-strokes.
All right, well, that's a breath of fresh air. Electrification and motocross is, like we said, a controversial topic, but 2-strokes, 4-strokes aren't going away. Dain, you built this bike to meet your own needs, right? You personally don't need to ride an hour-long moto at the track. You have fun with your motos. You bring the generator out, and today we're gonna get an experience of what this bike is like on the track. So let's get this thing out. Let's splash through some puddles and have some fun.
A lot of what you're looking at here may not be very familiar. An electric bike, there's 3 major components. You have your motor, you have your motor controller, or your inverter is another thing that it's called, and then you have the battery. So what we're looking at here on the side, the battery of the bike, this is around 3.5 kilowatt hours. It's about 100 volts. The motor here is a brushless motor from a company called Mod Energy. It's basically an AC motor. Motor controller is what takes the DC current from the battery, turns that into something that can turn the motor. One other aspect about this bike, you'll notice it is direct drive from the shaft of the motor to the rear axle. Since I have a little smaller battery than some of these might, every little efficiency loss is something that I'm taking into account here to get the most ride time. I did 3D print some of these parts down here, Again, just some beauty cover type parts, but the rest of it is, basically stock 2015 Yamaha chassis. Display on the bike, this is actually an e-bike like bicycle style display, but the company does such a good job making these that they are easily adaptable to really any project. So I actually use this display for a few other projects that I've done, and it's very simple and it tells you exactly what you need to know, no more and no less. So on that I have my amp hours capacity of the battery. It tells me how much I've used. It can also tell me instantaneously how many kilowatts I'm making, but obviously when you're riding it, you don't really have time to look down and look at it. The handlebar switches, so one interesting part, the bike does have reverse. It's helpful when you're loading or unloading, putting it in the garage. Switch for the regenerative braking where I can turn it on and turn it off. Again, just another unique aspect of electric bikes where it's a complete experience. Like it's a lot of fun, and there's a lot of tunability with it. For the future, I'm not 100% sure where I'm going to go from here. Possibly more voltage, custom motor.
What's up guys, Dennis Stapleton here. Fortunate enough to come out and ride with the Motocross Action crew today on the electric motorcycle. I've been fortunate to ride multiple electric motorcycles all the way from the BRD, which turned into the Alta, from the KTM Freeride to multiple Chiron e-mountain bikes to the bicycles that they have over the years of growing the electric platform, and then also dealing with a lot of mini kids on all the e-mini Cobra and KTMs and a lot of the electric bikes. The electric platform is growing, but by no means is it going to take over the gas-powered bikes in our generation. What's unique and cool about these bikes, there's so many options to them. There's so much fun stuff to play with. These bikes are incredible to trail ride. I think that will be the biggest market for the first generation of mass of e-bikes. You can take this bike, stop on a hill, go up a hill. Things about the e-bikes that are different, most of the bikes have their own chassis. This bike in particular has its engine put in a YZ 450 dirt bike frame, so it handles a lot similar to what we're used to. The hop isn't as big off gas. The turning has a more familiar feel as a motocross bike rather than some of the bikes that have been ground up to their spec with the electric engine. Some things that are cool about this bike, it has reverse. I found out I cannot ride farther than 3 feet in reverse, but that is a cool option for loading, unloading, or even trying to work on your balance technique. Also, this bike has the regenerative switch that allows it to handle a little better in the bumps. When it's on, it's a little bit more free. The little bumps don't feel as big as the big bumps. Off gas is a little easier to get in the turn. Overall, this bike was fast. It handled pretty good. The hardest and most unique thing to get used to after going back and forth on a gas bike would be the throttle position for wheelie, managing ruts and turns. They do have the capability nowadays to tune the power for your liking, so that will be something in the future when people get electric bikes that they'll be able to manage and fine-tune throttle position for the riding ability and what they're looking for. This bike was built in a garage, and it's quite impressive how well it works. They've got to watch other people build electric bikes to take ideas and work on their platform, but this bike is as competitive as any of the other bikes that have come out on the market. I think one of the favorite items is that it's in a motocross chassis. Straight up handles okay, turns okay, does nothing weird, but it would be competitive with any other electric bikes that have come out or that are on the market.
All right, guys, what an awesome day testing the SSE Yamaha electric dirt bike. It's not a Yamaha, but Yamaha chassis. We had a beautiful track today, perfect conditions with dirt. Dain drove 22 or 25 hours all the way from Cedar Falls, Iowa to come out here and let us ride his bike. We're very thankful for that. I'm super impressed that he says about $5,000 into parts on this bike. Obviously, he spent his own time in the garage working on it and figuring all the details out, but not that expensive to make this bike what it is. He found an old 2015 Yamaha YZ450F chassis, threw his electric motor in there. It's at a direct drive, so straight from the motor to the countershaft sprocket. There's no other gears to rob power. There's no other transmission or gearbox. So that makes it a little bit simpler and also helps him manage energy and manage the battery as well. So my electric bike experience isn't as much as Dennis Stapleton, but today I was super impressed with this bike. We did have a lot of traction today, and that's the biggest thing with electric dirt bikes that I've noticed, is that when you have traction, it's robbing power from the bike. It takes more electric power to make you go when there's a lot of traction, but when the track is hard pack and slick, that's where electric bikes are the most fun, because they wind up, you're kicking the rear end out, and they feel super fast, and you don't have to waste a lot of power. You're a lot more managing power on a dry, slick track. So that's why you see all of the Stark Varg videos are done on dry, dusty tracks where it's hard pack, and you can't see how the bike really works when it's deep sand, loam, or in the mud. Same thing with Alta. You don't see a lot of Alta videos from back in the day when they were riding in deep sand or in the mud. That's not where electric bikes shine. They shine in the dry, skatey tracks, and that's where I've ridden Altas before. Today, riding this SSE, we brought him out to a track that did have some sandy corners and did have a lot of good traction. So on the harder pack sections, this thing was super, super fun. I'd say easier to ride than the 125, easier to ride than a 450, because it's just simple. Twist the throttle and go. You got handbrakes. That makes things pretty simple because I get to leave my feet on the pegs the whole way around the track. I'm a trainer, Panic Rev Christian Motocross Camp. I train kids out there twice a year for 3 days in a row, and I'm always talking about feet on the pegs, ride on the balls of your feet, press through the foot pegs to control the bike. Your foot pegs are the best place to control it. I talked to Eli Tomac at Anaheim 1. What's your favorite drill to practice on during the week? Keeping your feet on the pegs all the way around the track. That's Eli Tomac. He's been practicing that for years. He's really pioneered it. Him and Ken Roxon keep their feet on the pegs all the way around the track in Supercross and in outdoors a lot. I try my best to do it. It's not easy, but on an electric dirt bike, it is so much easier. And with the handbrake, it's good and bad. Today, it was good because I got to keep my feet in the right position, but it's bad because I feel like it's a clutch. So I go to try to roost coming out of a corner to get a cool Motocross Action photo for Trevor Nelson, and I grab the clutch, only it's a rear brake, and it slows me down and I feel like a goofball. So that's something that takes some time to get used to, but overall, very, very impressed with this bike. From the little amount of time I've spent on an Alta, I'd say this is very, very comparable. I'd say we could battle, and if I had one today, it'd be better, but I'd say very, very comparable. The KTM Freeride this far exceeds that bike's capabilities, a lot faster, a lot better handling. This is a motocross bike. The Freeride is more of an adventure, play in the backyard bike. I've also ridden the Cake electric dirt bikes, super expensive bikes, super modern looking and cool, but they do not handle like a motocross bike, and they don't handle like this. I haven't ridden the Stark Varg, and not very many people have, but we're looking forward to eventually riding that someday. Other things about the SSE electric bike today, we did some lap time comparisons. You'll have to stay tuned for another video on that, but this thing was very, very competitive. In the air, I was reaching for the rear brake pedal a couple of times. You can see I probably get a little sketchy in some of these video clips, so it's a little bit hard to get used to having that rear brake on the hands. We didn't want to get it wet today. There's a lot of puddles today, so we were kind of dodging the puddles today, trying to get around them. Dain said you can get the tires and the bottom half of the bike wet, but try not to get the top half wet. So another big thing about the SSE electric bike is that Dain is smart enough to know that Yamaha is better at building chassis than he is. He built this motor, he sourced the motor, he sourced the battery, he used his own skills to machine it into a Yamaha chassis, but Yamaha spent a lot of time developing the 2015 YZ450F chassis. They know what to do to make this bike handle well. It's got the great KYB forks that we all know and love on it, the SSS spring forks. Yamaha spent a lot of time developing this bike. Although the 2015 Yamaha 450 isn't the best handling four-stroke on the market, I'm the first one to say that. Dennis Stapleton's probably the second one, but when you put an electric motor in there, it does handle pretty well, and I was definitely impressed. 2 words that you don't hear together, nimble and 2015 Yamaha, I guess that's 3 words. Well, we said those things today. This thing was pretty nimble and pretty impressive. The 23 Yamaha 450, that's a lot more nimble, but Dain used the Yamaha chassis, he used Yamaha's swing arm, used their wheels, used their suspension, and I think that's one huge step ahead that he has over companies like Stark, over companies like Alta, Cake, Suron, that all developed their whole new chassis all themselves. That's pretty difficult to do. Dain knows that he's not a chassis builder, he's an electric guy, and he made this Yamaha into a pretty cool electric bike. You guys are probably wondering, where can I buy this kit? Well, Dain is not selling it. He's built this bike for him. It meets all of his expectations, and he's had a lot of fun building it. He's not planning on selling a kit ever, he says. He will never sell a kit because he doesn't want to deal with the emails and the phone calls of complaints and people trying to put the bike together. If he sells an SSE electric bike, which he might if we get a lot of good comments and feedback and views on this video, if he sells a bike, he said it would be a complete bike, something that he builds completely, wheels, chassis, motor, battery, and then he sells it to you in one big large piece. That's a big if though. So right now, Dain's having a lot of fun building this bike. I'm very impressed with it, and we had a lot of fun riding it today. So thank you guys for watching. MotocrossActionMag.com for more of our latest videos, more of what's going on in Supercross and motocross world. Also, we have an upcoming This Week in MXA video where I put this bike head to head against a combustion engine 2-stroke. Stay tuned for that one. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.